Evelyn Carter grew up watching her father, Richard Carter, transform a tiny machine repair workshop in Colorado into one of the region's most respected aerospace component manufacturers, Carter Precision Systems. Through decades of relentless determination and sleepless nights, from the age of 16, Evelyn spent every school break working beside veteran employees on the factory floor, learning every department from inventory control to customer negotiations because her father believed a true leader should first understand every job inside the company. After Evelyn's mother lost her long battle with illness, Richard struggled with overwhelming loneliness until he met a charming widow named Victoria Hayes during a local charity fundraiser, and within a year they married despite Evelyn quietly worrying the relationship was moving too quickly. Wanting her father to find happiness again, Evelyn welcomed Victoria with kindness and hoped they could become a genuine family, never imagining how dramatically life would change after the wedding. Not long after settling into the family, Victoria accepted an administrative leadership position inside Carter Precision Systems, insisting she simply wanted to help Richard reduce his workload while preparing for retirement one day. Over the next few years, Victoria convinced Richard to hire each of her 3 daughters, Amber in business development, Nicole in corporate communications, and Chloe in employee relations, turning what had once been a close-knit workplace into an office where hidden rivalries quietly replaced mutual trust. Although Evelyn had already earned the respect of employees through years of hard work, Victoria's daughters treated her as if she were standing in the way of opportunities they believed should belong to them instead. Amber frequently interrupted Evelyn during client presentations with unnecessary criticisms. Nicole deliberately excluded her from important planning discussions, and Chloe whispered false rumors throughout the office claiming Evelyn's success came only from being Richard's daughter rather than from years of proven leadership. Richard often dismissed the growing tension as ordinary family disagreements, and remained convinced that patience would eventually bring everyone together, believing shared goals would outweigh personal differences with enough time. Evelyn respected her father's optimism and chose to stay silent for his sake, focusing every ounce of energy on strengthening the company instead of defending herself against constant disrespect. Everything changed without warning when Richard suffered a fatal heart attack during an early morning strategy meeting, leaving employees, customers, and suppliers devastated by the sudden loss of the man who had built the business with his own hands. Evelyn buried her grief behind professionalism throughout the funeral, while Victoria and her daughters accepted condolences from friends and relatives, each privately assuming the company's future would soon belong to all of them equally. Several weeks later, the family gathered in a law office where Richard's longtime attorney carefully presented the final contents of his estate, distributing personal assets exactly as Richard had instructed before arriving at the section concerning the business. To everyone's astonishment, Richard had transferred complete ownership and executive authority of Carter Precision Systems exclusively to Evelyn, explaining in a heartfelt letter that she alone had devoted her entire adult life to protecting the company's future. The silence inside the conference room became almost unbearable as Victoria's confident expression collapsed into disbelief, while her daughters exchanged stunned looks that quickly transformed into visible anger. "There has to be some mistake," Amber protested loudly, but the attorney calmly explained that the ownership transfer had been legally documented years earlier and could not be challenged simply because someone disliked the outcome. In the months that followed, Evelyn focused on honoring her father's trust by leading the company with discipline, transparency, and respect for the employees who depended on it for their livelihoods. Although Victoria and her daughters remained employed, their resentment intensified because every major decision now required approval from the person they had spent years trying to undermine. Eventually, the constant hostility became so exhausting that Evelyn moved out of the large family estate and rented a modern apartment closer to the manufacturing facility, hoping distance would reduce unnecessary conflict. The move brought temporary peace, but she still needed to return occasionally to collect personal belongings and family keepsakes that remained stored in her former bedroom. One rainy Thursday afternoon, Evelyn drove to the estate after receiving a message that the house would be empty for several hours, making it the perfect opportunity to finish packing the last of her possessions. As she entered through the front door and walked upstairs, she immediately heard laughter echoing from her old bedroom, causing an uneasy feeling to settle deep in her stomach. When she pushed open the door, she froze in disbelief as piles of expensive clothing, framed photographs, and treasured mementos lay scattered across the floor in complete chaos. Amber was slashing designer jackets with a box cutter, Nicole was tearing family photographs into pieces, and Chloe was dumping storage boxes upside down while recording everything on her phone as though it were some kind of joke. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Evelyn demanded, her voice sharp with shock and anger, but Victoria stepped between her and the others with a cold smile that revealed no trace of remorse. "We're removing things that don't belong here anymore," Victoria replied, and before Evelyn could react, the older woman shoved her backward against the wall while her daughters continued destroying years of personal belongings. Amber held up a torn blazer and laughed mockingly, claiming Evelyn only wore expensive clothing to make herself appear important despite having done nothing to deserve her position. Nicole ripped apart a leather-bound journal filled with notes from Richard and sneered that the company should have belonged to people who truly appreciated the family's contributions instead of someone they considered selfish. Rather than scream or fight, Evelyn forced herself to remain calm and carefully observed everything happening around her, understanding that emotions could cloud judgment when clear evidence mattered more. She discreetly activated the video recording feature on her smartwatch and captured every second of the destruction, including Victoria physically preventing her from intervening. The moment she left the property, Evelyn drove directly to the office of her corporate attorney, Samantha Reed, carrying photographs of the damage and copies of the recorded footage. After reviewing the evidence in silence, Samantha leaned back in her chair and said, "This isn't just a family dispute anymore. This is documented misconduct, property destruction, and physical intimidation, and there will be serious consequences for everyone involved." The following morning, Evelyn arrived at Carter Precision Systems before sunrise and met with Samantha Reed along with an experienced independent human resources consultant to review every piece of evidence collected from the previous day. After examining the video footage, photographs, employee performance records, and written statements, the consultant confirmed that the misconduct was severe enough to justify immediate termination under company policy while also exposing the offenders to potential civil and criminal liability. Beginning at 9 o'clock, Victoria was invited into a private conference room, where she expected an ordinary management meeting, only to discover Evelyn, Samantha, and the HR consultant waiting with neatly organized documentation spread across the table. As the evidence was presented, Victoria's confidence disappeared, and despite insisting everything had been just a family disagreement, she was informed that physically restraining the company's owner and participating in the destruction of personal property violated both the law and the company's code of conduct, resulting in her immediate dismissal. Amber entered next with an arrogant smile that quickly faded after watching the security footage play across the conference room screen, leaving her unable to deny what she had done. She attempted to argue that emotions had gotten the better of her, but the HR consultant explained that repeated complaints about her behavior combined with the recorded vandalism left the company with no reasonable alternative except termination. Nicole's meeting followed shortly afterward, and she reacted with anger, accusing Evelyn of seeking revenge instead of justice while refusing to accept responsibility for her actions. Samantha calmly responded that every decision had been supported by documented evidence and established employment policies, reminding Nicole that accountability was the natural consequence of choices made willingly rather than something created out of personal resentment. The final meeting belonged to Chloe, whose expression shifted from confidence to panic the moment she realized the very video she believed would embarrass Evelyn had instead become the strongest evidence against her. She quietly admitted posting portions of the incident online for amusement, and the consultant explained that broadcasting workplace-related misconduct involving the company's owner represented a serious violation of professional ethics as well as company standards, ending her employment immediately. By early afternoon, all four women had surrendered their company identification cards, returned their electronic devices, and left the building under the supervision of security without causing further disruption. Evelyn addressed the remaining employees through a brief company meeting, reassuring everyone that the recent leadership changes were necessary to protect the organization's integrity and that professionalism, fairness, and respect would always remain the foundation of Carter Precision Systems. Over the following months, the atmosphere inside the company improved dramatically, as experienced professionals replaced the former managers and introduced fresh ideas that strengthened teamwork throughout every department. Customer satisfaction increased, productivity reached record levels, and several major aerospace manufacturers signed long-term agreements after recognizing the company's renewed commitment to excellence and stability. Sometimes people asked Evelyn whether she regretted removing people who had once been considered family, but she always remembered the afternoon they laughed while destroying treasured memories left behind by her late father. Instead of seeking revenge, she had chosen accountability through lawful procedures, proving that real leadership means protecting honest people, defending what is right, and never allowing cruelty or entitlement to threaten a legacy built with integrity. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.